co-founder of Co-Fondi. And he and his partner have worked extensively in Ghana and in Nigeria. And they're going to be sharing some tips with us this evening and also answering questions that you might have, particularly in investment climate in Nigeria. You're most welcome, Chukwemeka.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for
Now,
having me.
whilst you digest that, if you have any question, please stay close to your phone lines and your hand and your devices so you can send us WhatsApp messages. We're going to break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation in full. Before we go, here are the ways that you can get in touch with us. WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981.
And also on Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. You can use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981. Don't forget you can call our studio lines as well. 01448991 is where you can send your messages to. And also, we're streaming live on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/Smooth981FM. Yes. And let's go on a quick break.
Okay.
Did I get it? Okay.
Nice
I
one.
don't think you got it, but yeah. It's 981 day. We're good to go.
You said this evening. It's obvious
You
that
said
you're
this
not a
evening,
host in church everywhere.
Oh, I said this evening.
So it's about this evening. Oh yeah, you talk it out.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, so yeah, so just I think we just put songs in between so I won't be just talk for 1 hour. Yeah, so we'll just start. So the first thing we can start by is what are the marks of a good investment? Or what qualifies as good investment to you? As good investment. So let's look at, so we're going to be very clear that we're speaking on investment at the very basic level, because there are experts who might be listening to us and be thinking, what are you saying? But if it's for ABC of investment, so we know that we're speaking to break it down if we want to just venture into it for the first time. So that's the angle we're looking at it from. What qualifies as good investment? Then some of the mistakes we make when it comes to investment or mindset changes that happen. Are you comfortable with that? Or mindsets change. Now, what are the barriers in Nigeria to investment, in the Nigerian climate in particular? Then types of investment, can we do that? Because when we now got types of investment broadly, we now then narrow down to real estate. And then we can then, from what you say, then you can answer, okay, so how can then from what you say, we can then lead on to. Are there any particular spots you'd like us to talk about?
I mean, the thing is, for good enough, the investment sector in West African countries is very similar. Right?
Okay,
so we've been in Ghana for a while, so maybe similarities and differences we've seen between behavior.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so that's nice. So just so when we talk about some of the mistakes and mindsets, we'll go to that. Then we'll now talk. Let's do barriers. No, we'll do barriers. No, we'll do which one should come first? The similarities in West Africa and barriers, because I'm guessing that we share the same barriers.
Barriers actually very similar. But I'm talking in terms of like the attitudes of people to the investment, how people have responded so far.
Then, do you know anything about government policy around relations, international relations?
Yeah, so the major barrier when it comes to government relations is the government are more focused on preventing money laundering and terrorist financing. So that it restricts the transfer of money. So if somebody in the UK wants to invest in something in Nigeria, it's very, very difficult. And then the fact that Nigeria has a very bad reputation in terms of money transfers means that if you walk into a bank in the US and say, I want to transfer this money to Nigeria.
So this is definitely one of the barriers or the
difficult. So please, as much as possible, expand on what you're speaking, because remember that what we're trying to do is to educate the listeners. So don't assume that we know anything. Even acronyms,
with the smallest things.
So imagine that you're speaking to the most uninterested investment and who is speaking to your colleagues or speaking to your peers. Then which other area would you like us? Have we covered all and then we'll go on?
Okay, we can go off now. Let's go back.
Right now? We have only 46 seconds.
It's like we have a group work. Can't they just there chilling? I'll catch up with y'all.
I'm just thinking like, guys,
I'm sleepy. I've been saying
don't worry.
this.
You know you didn't sleep overnight. Are you sure it's not?
Music is about soul healing vibes that transcend you with lyrical grooves, lifting you into love as you flow through life. My music is frequency. Love music, love life. You're listening to Mind Muse.
Just when you thought you knew everything
Oh, it's like,
about
oh,
noodles,
brilliant.
something else
Mm.
comes
Brilliant.
up. Something new, something
I like that
fun,
line. I don't
something
mind it. I actually
exciting,
never use it.
something kind of jolloфy. Introducing Golden Penny Jollof Noodles. Enjoy the rich, satisfying goodness of Golden Penny Jollof Noodles. It's easy to make and ready in just 5 minutes, just the way you like it. Golden Penny Jollof Noodles
Well done, guys.
for the love
Thank you,
of
guys.
jollof.
Guy, this traffic tire power. I just want to get home and see lights and sleep. That's the only thing that can get me moving.
As for me like this, the only thing that can get me moving is if someone should just fuel my car. I go happy die.
You said fuel? Hey, haven't you heard that Old Mutual is giving out free fuel?
Old Mutual, the petrol station or the insurance company.
It is the club. See, Old Mutual is giving 4 vouchers of up to 30,000 naira to vehicle owners, and I heard it's even double a woo.
Indeed, your next full tank is a must. Buy our unbeatable 2.5% comprehensive motor insurance and be among the instant winners of up to 30,000 naira worth of fuel voucher. Our comprehensive motor insurance covers all kinds of mishaps like ill-timed accidents, theft, hijacking, lightning, and fire. Visit www.oldmutual.com.ng or call 01-271-9393 for more details. Offer valid from 11 September till 8 November 2019. Terms and conditions apply. Old Mutual. Do great things every day.
Better dollar do for inside the new Hunger 14 grams medium pack. This one at times 2 of the size when been there before. Oh, it can still get 2 grams
Oh, my.
on top of chicken it 20 naira. Grab better value on top Hunger.
Hunger, Mama's
Shit.
helping hand.
Yes. Okay. I put a stopper on, but the thing has 000 out. Okay, Lagos, you're welcome back. If you just joined us, well, you're just in time because we talked about a very special guest joining us in the studio today, and he's right here with us. We're talking all about investment this morning, and we'd love for you to be a part of our conversation. By the way, this is Lagos Talks 91 on Smooth 90.1 with Ayamara SA.
And Kaide Baker. All right, Lagos, we have a guest, Chukwemeka Ndukwiwe, founder or co-founder of CoFundi. When we're looking at investment climate in Nigeria, and I think just to put it out there that we're looking at it from a very, very basic point of view. So for those who have not even ventured into the world of investment or in search of investment and are just considering that option, this show is certainly for you. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, Chukwemeka, is this: what is the current investment climate, or what would you qualify as good investment?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. So I've been talking about investments. I think to answer your first question, what the investment climate is like in Nigeria right now, I think it's actually very, very interesting. The guys on Wall Street will say it's bullish because people are eager to invest in Nigeria from the lowest. People who have low income, people who have the highest income. I think people are beginning to realize that putting your money in the bank and letting it sit there is just not going to do anything for you. And you need to find something to do with your money. And you would see from the rise of startups in Nigeria in general, it's usually the ones that are sort of making a lot of waves now, the ones that are giving people the means to be able to put their money into something and let it sort of multiply for them. So I would say Nigerians, there's greater interest today than it was maybe 3 years ago. And ironically, the rise of those Ponzi schemes a few years ago just sort of help people to start thinking about their money in a different way. So while that was like a bad thing that really happened to a lot of people, it really changed a lot of people's attitudes towards money.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. And I want to ask you a follow-up question to that. Some people would think that we keep saying in Nigeria, no money, that we would see a decline in investment or interest in investing. But it's interesting that you talked about the market being bullish. So a lot of people are even looking for ways to invest What do you think has changed this, or what do you think is responsible for this attitude?
So I mean, the truth is, if you've been in Nigeria and if you're an ordinary average Nigerian, there's never been money, right? There's never been a time when people are like, yeah, things were going so great for. It's just things have just been getting worse. But then I think that period when people had money in the bank and all of a sudden overnight the exchange rate changed from 180 to 360, like it went from 180 to maybe 400 and
Okay.
then inched back down to, and people realized that if you had 1 million naira in the bank, you in effect overnight you had 500,000 because your money had lost all its value. And why was that? Because the money was just sitting there. So I think there's never going to be a time when there will be so much money and then everybody's like, okay, I have enough money, then I'm going to invest. But people are now beginning to realize that, the best way to save yourself, hedge against inflation, which is what investments are really. So investing your money is sort of a hedge. So people might not know the terms, what inflation means, but they're experiencing it. So when you
Put that
go
money somewhere.
when you go to the market, maybe yesterday the price of a cup of rice was maybe 100 naira. You go tomorrow and it's 150 or 200. It means that the 100 naira you had yesterday, you need double of that to get more. So people are beginning to realize that, see, the best way to save your money from losing that kind of value is to put it to work for you. And people have actually been doing these things for a while. Right? Maybe when a friend of mine approaches me and says, hey, I want to buy 50 t-shirts and sell them. If you give me 100,000 naira to do this, I'll give you your money back plus 10,000 naira. That's a form of investment, but people don't think about it that way.
So it's been informal, largely to a large extent, but people are now going the formal route and trying to find out.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. Now to the second part of the question, which is what would you qualify as so almost like if you had a checklist, I want to invest, or I want to invest, what would you qualify? What are the checklists for a good investment?
So those things are very subjective because of the nature of the industry, but I think at the most basic level, I need to know exactly what my money is going to do. I need to know exactly what is going to multiply my money.
Okay.
So that was the problem with the Ponzi scheme periods. Like, it wasn't clear what was going on. You put your money in and then
I just know that it comes in 2-3 folds.
Yeah, but no. First and foremost, the basic thing is I need to understand the provenance of my money. From the moment my money leaves my hand and goes into the hand of the person who's going to do the investment, exactly what is going to happen. Walk me through step by step. I need to know. It needs to make sense to me, right? So you don't come and tell me, oh, even if you're promising me 50% interest, right? Like, let me know, how is it possible that you're giving me 50%? The number itself might be fantastic, but if you can explain it for me, then I can accept it. So I think it just needs to be. I need to just understand exactly what would happen with my money at each step of the way. That's how I know it's a good or bad investment.
Brilliant. And just to also, because you said something about you need to speak to the person, do you always have to have a middleman when you want to invest? So some people think, oh, let me just watch the market. Some people do certain things, and some people say talk to a broker. Do you always have to have a middleman? Do you always have to have a broker?
The one thing I'll say about it is you need to have an understanding of the space you're investing in. So if you don't have a personal understanding of the space, then please make use of somebody who does. Okay. Right? So don't let your limited knowledge. That's why we sort of live together in this world. We hold each other's hands. We push each other around. So if you're interested in a space and you don't know how to go about it directly. So for example, there's stockbrokers who understand the stock market, right? They don't need anybody's help. They understand how it works. Anything that happens, if the market goes up, if it goes down, they know how to analyze the market. But you probably don't have that. So it's best you use a stockbroker, a middleman. But for someone who maybe understands the space better, and I think Warren Buffett always says he will never invest his money in anything he doesn't really understand, right? And that's why he wasn't really an early investor in tech. But you see that now his companies are beginning to invest into tech, and that's because some younger guys he has brought into the business, and now they understand it, right? So he's relying on them. So they are sort of like his middlemen to the tech space. So it's if the richest man in the world, still one of the richest men in the world, still abides by that philosophy, who are we not to do the same?
Speaking on investment, though, that you've mentioned now, it's good you mentioned Warren Buffett now, and a lot of people in the space that we find ourselves would like to invest, right? But they don't understand what to invest in because, like you mentioned tech. We here in Nigeria have peculiar challenges.
Yeah.
We don't have that many tech companies. We don't have that many companies that are into the kind of various products that other people have.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges, the limitations, and how can we go around them?
Yeah, so I mean, Nigeria is a very unique country. We have very unique challenges when it comes to doing business, and I think part of it is trust. Trust is a very huge problem here, right? When you have a very attractive investment and you bring to people, people want to know, every single little detail about who you are, where you're coming from, which is not a bad thing. But we live in a very low trust society here in Nigeria, and one of the things that sort of blocks people is access. So there's a lack of access for people, for the vast majority of people in Nigeria, right? There's people who, I mean, I've had friends who have been saying for months, I would like to invest my money in maybe the US stock market, for example, but they don't have any access
Is
to
that
that
possible
market.
from here though?
Yeah, it's very possible. It's
Okay.
possible. It's very, very possible. There's countries where you can actually invest your money in Nigeria. And there's startups currently in Nigeria that make it possible for you to be able to invest in the US stock market, in the UK stock market, in Singapore, all those other developed countries. But access is a problem, right? Then another barrier for people is lack of education. So first and foremost, there's a lot of people who don't even understand. So I mean, I saw a very funny tweet a while back, and they said, look, that the only competition that a Nigerian bank has is your box, your susu box in your room, because 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 Nigeria is like, putting my money in the bank and putting it in just in a normal savings account and putting it in my susu. It's almost the same. Like, it doesn't really benefit me much, right? Exactly. So, but then, why do I put money in the bank? Because I know that at the end of the day, it doesn't really make sense to leave my money in my room. And also, I know that the banks also have other packages that they offer people, that maybe if you want to help your money grow. But a lot of people don't know this. So education is a very huge barrier for people. People don't understand how to even go about it in the first place. And very, very weirdly enough, financial literacy is not something we touch at all in Nigerian secondary schools to universities. If I had my way, look, every class you go through, there'll be one financial literacy class to let people understand exactly what money is and how it works. So lack of access.
So you would
and lack of
suggest they
education.
start them young. You would want
Yes.
them to start from primary school,
Yes.
basic education, start teaching children financial literacy.
Exactly, because I mean, we have very poor attitudes towards money in this country. Like, it's either we overestimate what it is, or we really underestimate what it is. You need to have a very balanced view of what money is and what money can do. So if I had my way, and it's something that some families are trying to do, where they maybe when they send you to university, they don't give you too much money, so they help you sort of find your way around, right? So help you to sort of understand how the money works and things like that. So for me, if I had my way in the maybe Ministry of Education, I would introduce it a little bit the same way we introduce moral education here. I would also introduce a little bit of financial literacy classes, like how to go about understanding.
Just as you would have home economics, home keeping,
Exactly.
food and nutrition, how to cook.
Exactly.
We also need to start training our young ones how to manage money
Exactly.
and catch them young. I think that's really important. I know with the emergence of tech, for instance, they started in some schools, they teach coding. They teach children from a very young age how to code, because we're trying to prepare ourselves for to be 2020 compliant. So also it's important. But in the case where, I mean, just to digress a little and we'll come back. In the case where it's not taught in schools, would you suggest for parents to have private tutors for those who can afford that? So, for instance, we have lesson teachers who come in, or religious studies. When it's not taught in school, you have private. For those who are Muslims, go to they call it the Islamic schools. For those who are Christians, go to Sunday school.
Yeah.
Would you suggest that parents should also start taking it that seriously? The way you'd have ballet classes.
So we have
Violin
literacy classes.
things like that. Well, I mean, I do think parents should take it very seriously, but I don't think they need to hire someone, right? I think if you had a child, for example, and maybe your child is 15, you could just give them maybe 1,500 naira, or give them just help them out. Just like, so let me give an example. When I was in university, my mom had a shop in Balogun Market, right? So she knew that the place where people bring in all them t-shirts, I don't know if you know any Superman t-shirts are really nice, and I'm a keep, right? So I should be, see, if you want, you can come and buy it. Because I was just gisting her one day how, look, these shirts are really
everywhere.
I went to school in Owerri, so I said people in Owerri, one goes for like 5,000 naira. I said, what? We buy it for like 1-2 here in the market.
Wow.
So I went with her to the market one day. My pocket money was to start was like about 15,000 naira. So I used like 10 of it, and I bought the shirts. They gave me a discount, so I bought 10, so that's 1,000 naira. And I went and I sold them for 4,000 naira in school, right? Each one.
Yeah.
So it was still cheaper than the price in the market in Owerri, but it was a tidy profit, very, very tidy profit for me, right? Which increased my pocket money. And I quickly sent money back to her. I said, send more down. And I used to always make sure I wore my own keep or Superman. So like, when did you get? I'm like, yeah, just give me your name and your phone number. I'll make sure I get you one. Yeah. So that was it. I don't know if she set about about teach me how to. But I think maybe she just mentioned it as a joke or something. But that was it was a trigger for me, right? It just made me like,
It
wow.
was your DNA because you're formally taught, but it was in your bloodline.
Yeah, maybe hopefully
From your mom, you got it from your mom. But I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's just similar stuff for parents. Right? Just find a way. I mean, it doesn't need to be anything. I think there's a stigma with children hawking things, but in the US, children, girls' guides, they sell cookies, right?
Yes,
guided.
go
They
to door to
sell.
door.
Yeah, door-to-door sales. It's important skills you need to impart into your children. How to walk up to people and be like, "Hey, I have these things for sale." Don't be ashamed. It's your hustle. Why are you ashamed about it, right?
But speaking of hustles now, okay, I like the fact that you mentioned that parents should encourage their children to do such things that you've talked about. But
Yeah.
how about the um, the written aspect of it? How to understand balance sheets, how to understand what to invest in, how to understand finances as a whole. I know that some parents might know this because of their backgrounds in education.
Yeah.
But don't you think that it's important that parents should have teachers that would teach kids or young adults how to understand understand all these financial figures?
Yeah. I mean, so I think what I would say is parents should have people to teach their children how to use Excel, right? So we're choosing Excel. That actually it's a bookkeeping and all this other thing. It's sort of like a sub branch of it. If you can afford it, then yes. But also, you don't even need to bring in somebody. These things are online, right? There are YouTube channels that just teach you how to do these things, how to balance books, which is it's a very, very important life skill. Now, just don't forget about investments in general. Just to live your life in this world right now, you need to be able to manipulate Excel properly, right? And if you can do that, you can keep records about how you're spending your money. You can see exactly what's going on, and there's even apps out there that you can just download, and then each time you link it to your debit card. So each time you make a purchase and anything, it immediately records itself on your phone, and you can see what's going on. So I would say yes, if you can afford it, yes. But for those who can't afford it, YouTube is there. You can learn how to use. You can use pay for courses on Udemy for your children. You can pay for courses on Coursera. All those kinds of things. And it's even so when your kids. I mean, you can't prevent kids from using their system or going online. But what if when they're going online, they're actually learning things that can actually help them in future?
Fantastic. Thank you so much indeed. We're still on this conversation around investment climate in Nigeria. We digressed a little to talking about business and being business savvy generally. But we have the pleasure of we have been speaking with Chukwemeka Ndukwe, who is the co-founder of GoFundMe. If you have questions, please don't forget to send in your messages to WhatsApp 0809 4440981. If you'd like to call us 0144899981. When we come back, we'll be looking at investment across West Africa as it relates to Nigeria's similarities, differences, barriers, government policies, and also the types of investments that you might want to be looking into. This is Lagos Talks 981 here on Smith 98.1.
Name is Shay Shay.
Thank you very much.
You are
Nice
listening
one.
to Smooth
Great one.
98.
So when we come back,
Give
we'll
me
go
love.
into
Show some love.
Honey,
We're going to,
Junior, you take my Max Taraba.
A bit of
the West African one. So, co-funding, towards the end of the conversation, that's after the last ad break, we'll then talk about what do you do at co-funding. Just very short, because you cannot.
because of marketing reasons we can understand. Outside that, do you know about forex?
That's funny. So when I was in youth service, I did. You have to do like side. So my side was forex trading, but I never used it for once because it wasn't clear to me. Like I said, I didn't. So there's this forex trading bureau in Ikoyi. So they came and they offered to teach us for it. Some people who do the course with me, they actually do that now. They trade
Okay,
forex.
as a means of livelihood.
Yes, a means of livelihood, but I never picked it up. It never really made too much sense to me. It looked too much like gambling to me, so I just took a step back. But
It does
apparently,
look like gambling.
but apparently
That's why I
not.
haven't
Like,
dived in it.
yeah, apparently not. They say people who are doing it say, look, if you understand the market and analyze it properly. But I think I try not to waste my time too much. So when I went and tried it maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I saw it wasn't really making sense, I just pulled my hand out.
Okay.
Just dial star 344.
How do you delineate Wimbo? How do you delineate big ground?
No, because this is not what we're talking about. That was a digression. You should child labor. The person knows this. The person just wants to ask this question.
So someone asked about child labor.
That how do you differentiate between child labor and encouraging kids to learn? How does that even learn commercial skills?
Make sure your child is always ready to win every day with Milo.
And because we're not even talking about that, we're talking about investment.
Milo,
Okay, we're ready.
the energy food drink of future champions.
No
Oh,
matter
sorry.
where you come
There's one
from
more.
or
There's
your
12
taste,
seconds.
you can make great meals every time with Onga, the seasoning of Niger, now made with locally sourced soya for more nutritional benefits. Onga, Mama's helping hand.
Hello, I'm Richard Quest of CNN. This is Smooth 98.1.
That's right. This is Smooth 98.1. You're listening to Lagos Talks 981. And of course, it's part of Smooth Breakfast with Ayamara SE.
And of course, Kaide Baker. Good morning, Lagos. On Lagos Talks 91 this day, we're looking at investment climate in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were talking about what qualifies as things to look out for if you're going into investment. We're speaking at very basic level, and also some of the mistakes or challenges that some people have had when it comes to investing, asking the right questions, being knowledgeable, knowing what you're investing in, and where possible, seeking help. And doing justice to this topic with us this morning is Chuko Emeka Ndukwe, who is the co-founder of Co-Fundi.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I like the player word, co-founder of Co-Fundi. Okay, so before the break, we talked about the fact that we're going to look at West Africa and some similarities in some countries with Nigeria. But perhaps let's talk about the enabling environment or not of transacting business or investment in Nigeria,
Yeah.
and as it relates with other West African countries.
Okay, so I mean, I always say to anybody who asks that if you're coming to do business in Africa and you don't have a Nigerian strategy, you've not started yet, because this is basically where business lives in Africa. But it's funny because the the situation here, or the environment here, the business environment here, is extremely unique, right? You need to understand how to do business in Nigeria, and it also applies to investments. So part of it is, like I said, Nigeria is a low trust society compared to maybe a country like Ghana. Ghana is more of a high trust society. If you, as long as everything you're saying on the surface sort of makes sense, they tend to take you at your word.
Sorry, so when you say low trust and high trust, just to break it down, please.
Okay, sorry. So, so in the US, for example, where everybody's name everybody's from the minute you're born till the minute you die, everything is recorded. Every purchase you make, I mean, I had a friend once who moved from Nigeria to the US, and he used to always just buy things. Like he wanted to buy a phone, he bought the phone. He wanted to do this. So someone advised him, no, you don't do that here. Here, what you do is you pay for it installmentally, so that way you build a credit record for yourself, so that when you need maybe you need loans or something in the future, there's a credit score that people sort of so that's a more of a high. They don't need to trust you there because they have your records, right? You walk into a bank and say you want a loan, all they need to do is just pull up all your records, and then they can see what your financial history has been like, and if you'll be able to pay back the loan. In Nigeria, we don't have anything like that, so there's nowhere to hang your trust on for somebody. It's always more of, if someone says to you, that if someone you trust already recommendations is what we sort of rely on here. But then how much recommendations can you get for somebody? So that's why I say that's the difference between a society like the US, where it's easier to trust people, than in Nigeria, where it's a bit harder. And that's why, if you notice, names sort of matter here in this country. And also it's weird, but if you come with something and there's a white man on your team or something, it's easier for people to trust you, because I think maybe we believe that, okay, not everybody has that kind of the way we think here. So that's sort of the differences. So, but I think in as much as there's a similar background in all West African countries like Ghana don't have as much barriers for trust as we do. I mean, I can say firsthand that Ghanaians tend not to trust Nigerians so much. So if you're a Nigerian there, you want to do business in Ghana, you want to have an investment product, it's very important that you have a Ghanaian in your company who would sort of speak the local language to them and just allay them of any concerns. In Nigeria, it doesn't really matter if you have a Nigerian. You need to, Nigerians need to have recommendations are extremely important, exactly, before people can do what they want to, before people can work with you. So that's the difference between Nigeria and Ghana specifically.
Fantastic, thank you so much indeed. So trust levels in terms of investment, but we've had government policies like the ease of doing business, and it's been pushed by the government and championed by the vice president, who is the caretaker of the economy. How do you think, to what extent do you think policies like that have helped build investment in more investor confidence in Nigeria?
I mean, it's very slow. I know they are trying. I've seen some of the efforts that they are doing, but it's really, really slow. And it would be good if they move. So, for example, one of the things they said was that it would be good. They would try to make it possible for people to invest, to open businesses, to register businesses on the spot in one day. That's not really taking effect, right? And that the fact that it's difficult to do. So the thing is, you cannot dissociate business from government, and you cannot dissociate the investment climate from what the government is thinking, right? So if somebody wants to come and invest in Nigeria, for example, one of the things that you do, and it goes back to what you said about what you need to look into to understand what is a good investment or not. One of the things you do is look at what the government policy around business is like. So if the government policy looks like it's pro-business, then it makes sense to invest in that country because it shows that the government will not interfere. Government policy is one less thing to worry about. And if there's any issue that you need to take to court, for example, it's more of a environment than some countries where it's more of a it's less pro business. So in as much as I have to admit they are trying, things are easier today than they were last year or that they were 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But the thing is, other countries have done these things and they've done it easier. So all we need to do is just copy the models from these other countries, and it's not really moving fast enough. And that's really reducing investor confidence in this country.
Speaking of pro business, let's come down to the layman's understanding. For example, how does a layman who wants to invest in business say, okay, let's say I live in Ghana, I'm a Ghanaian, right, and I want to invest in Nigeria, right? So what do I look for? What do I look out for when you say look out for government policies that are pro business? Who do I speak to? What do I search for?
Okay,
where do I go?
Yeah, so I mean, depending on who you are, your level of access might be very limited. But I mean, news reports and the kind of laws that the government is passing, the kind of laws that are passing through, and the statements coming out from government officials are extremely important. So if you're in Ghana, for example, you want to invest in a rice business in Nigeria, right? This is a good time to do that because you know that the government is really heavily trying to push local rice, right? So the government has even shut down the borders, right? So if there's anybody who wants to do like a business where factory in Nigeria, this is a very, very good time to do it. Now, the only problem is that we know that our governments are not very consistent. But let's let's even talk about that. That's another rabbit hole we don't want to go down. But like I said, that's how you know. But if somebody wants to do a business where you import rice into Nigeria, this is a very terrible time for that, right? You don't even think about it. It's obvious that this government is not interested in imported products. So it's those kinds of things you need to look at. So another thing is, let's say land, for example. You want to invest in a real estate business, for example, in Nigeria. You would want to do it in Lagos or Abuja because these are places where the states, because I mean in Nigeria, state governments are sort of responsible for like real estate and things like that. So these are one of the few states where the state government has taken the issue of C of O very seriously. So it makes sense to invest it because then you know that you're protected in case there's anything that goes wrong. So that's how to.
I'm glad you talk about properties. Now, recently in the news this week, actually, during our freshly pressed segment, we talked about land grabbers, and Lagos State, I think it was the State House of Assembly saying they were going to set up a committee to look into the issue of land grabbers. How have land grabbers and, as you've mentioned, not having certificates of or niles in Lagos and other parts of Nigeria, how has it affected investment in real estate?
It's I said the investment sector in Nigeria generally is bullish. For real estate, people are very bearish about real estate in Nigeria because it's a very huge problem. I mean, good enough, we're not unique in that sense. Ghana also has those same similar issues, but it's a very, very huge problem. You can't buy your land and be satisfied in your sleep that you've bought your land, right? And that's why there's been a rise in all these institutional landowners like Adron Homes and all those other guys because you know that, okay, fine, guys, instead of dealing with the government. So it's really made people shy away from trying to invest in property, or if you want to do it, it raises up the cost because now you're not buying the land directly from the individuals, you're buying it from institutional guys who have the political clout to take care of any issues. So it's something the government needs, especially here in Lagos. For Lagos to turn to what it needs to be, it's something that needs to be taken care of really, so that there's no that issue of one person selling land twice, or no clear title, or you're buying the land and then one month later somebody else comes to you and says, oh, that was my grandfather's side of the family. You also need to settle these other people. These things need to be really taken care of.
Thank you so much. But I know that you are a promoter of investment in real estate. So how do you balance it? So if you're trying to convince me, and we have money, we want to invest, come and invest, how do you convince me with the challenges you've highlighted in this sector?
So the thing is, those challenges that I mentioned are what make the what's it called, the atmosphere in Nigeria interesting to someone who wants to do business, right? If everything was very smooth, everybody will be doing it, right? So the fact that the challenges are there is what makes the people, the few who dare, who brave to go in there, who make them sort of ideal for you to work with. So for my company, for example, we only work with institutional landowners. We don't deal with individual landowners as a policy because we don't want to have to do. I mean, it raises up cost of doing business, like I said.
Yeah.
But that cost that it raises up is worth it for the issue that you might face if you go the other route, right? So yeah, so it's, if you want to invest in properties, just look at all those things for the person that is asking you to give you that money, right? How exactly are they going about the land issues that exist? How are they going about taking care of like the government interference? What exactly are the risk mitigation policies that they have in place? These are things you need to look into.
All right. Well, there's more to come, Lagos. If you want to learn all about investments, well, we still have a few more minutes to talk about this. So please get your messages to 080-848. Excuse me, 0981. Okay, that's where you can send your messages to. We'll go on a quick break. When we get back, we'll do some more talking. Don't forget, you're listening to Lagos Talks 981 on Smooth 98.1.
Thank you. Nice one. I'm actually really, it's a very enlightening conversation.
Yeah.
So this is the final stretch. So to let us know what you'd like for us to touch on. So like, have we covered the areas that you're interested in covering?
We mentioned something about talking about the barriers. So I wanted to talk about exactly when is an investment offer on the table for you, like what to look into.
Okay, brilliant. So we have an investment offer. So investment offer from, so when you say investment offer,
so something like what we do, for example, we have a platform that you go on and we're trying to make people go on there and invest their money, right? So and we're not just doing it.
Just like, so are you a bit like the farm crowd? You know how farm crowd is?
Exactly.
Brilliant.
That's the fastest way to explain it. We're like farm crowd for
so people go on your website, they
see the properties that we're currently crowdfunding for. Then they see every single thing that we think about, why we think this is going to be a good deal, and how much we expect to make on a time frame. If you like it, you use your card to make a payment, or you pay.
So how do you frame that question?
I think I would like to just answer. I would like to ask me about our due diligence process. How do we do? So how our model works is that property developers bring us deals that they want.
So since before the break we talked about land grabbers, issues around real estate investment. So we'll talk about, so how can people then, if you want to invest, how can people do their due diligence? Is that's a good point.
So how would you because we only so far we've only taken 2% of all the deals that have been brought to us, right? So how do we get down to those 2%? What do those 2% have? Why are they the ones that we chose, for example?
No.
Now, that's more than just
It's good. Thank you. You're very knowledgeable, very answered, and very engaging guest as well.
When you said I say hi.
Oh, yeah.
She should tell you about cousins.
Yeah. First cousins.
Our moms and sisters.
Oh.
You didn't have to drive. Since I got this new car here, I've been taking it on even the shortest of trips. From here to there, I take my car. From your kitchen to your bedroom. I still take my car. So let's make a toast to my brand new
Background.
Excuse me, sir. Who did you take when I'm back for?
You sure how many cars don't have insurance?
What did you just say? Yeah, from here to there.
Unexpected situations can happen even on the shortest trips. Leadway Assurance offers reliable auto insurance plans from third party to comprehensive auto insurance. Call 01-2700-700
Are you comfortable with
to get your auto insurance plan. Drive assured
Is it
with
convenient?
Leadway
Then I
Auto
use this
Plan.
mic for you.
Okay. Leadway Assurance, ensuring happiness since 1970.
Honey, Junior, who take my Maggi Staraba?
Sweetheart, how you begin get Maggi wrapper?
Leave that thing. Me self, I won't wait for this Maggi Mega Millions. Yes, so Wakis don't land with Maggi Mega Millions promo. Every week, lucky winners go fit win 1 million naira each inside this promo, plus other correct instant prizes there. Oh yeah, carry 100 Maggi Staraba, go to select places, and then go knock you scratch card where you go take win bracket the credit and good cash instant. They gonna bring plenty Maggi Staraba as that the person will bring Maggi Wrapper plenty pass last. Go win this 1 million naira. This start from the 1st of October, go reach 31st of October 2019. Terms and conditions they shall with Maggi. Cook the difference.
Okonkwo and his family worked very hard to plant a new farm. But it was like beginning life anew, like learning to become left-handed in old age.
In the world of books and literature, Smooth 98.1 presents to you the very best of African authors.
I'm a storyteller. I was also
African stories and perspectives with a mix of prose and poetry, drama and thriller, fiction and reality.
I write about things I recognize.
Okay, we're ready.
1 hour of inspired literature on the Smooth Book Review. Every Saturday from 10 a.m.
Okay, welcome back, Lagos. It's the final stretch right here on Lagos Talks 981 on Smooth 98.1. We're talking all about investments this morning, and I'm sure I've learned so much from our very special guests in the studio. So don't forget, we have a few more minutes to take in some of your correct questions.
Yes.
So send them to 0809 444 0981.
All right, so Chukwemeka Ndukwe,
Yeah.
co-founder of GoFundMe, is our guest for today. And just a final question before we wrap up this morning, because it's still on the street of property investment,
Yeah.
as a number of people have indicated interest in that area.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, despite all the challenges that you've identified, how you can do your due diligence to know that, okay, this is what is worth investing in? What are the things that you can do?
Okay, so for due diligence, I'll use our own due diligence, the due diligence process we use at my company as a touching off point. So first and foremost, you need to investigate every single detail about the deal, right? Real estate is it's good and bad. It's good in the sense that real estate deals tend to be public record, so you can see some of these things by yourself, and you can verify a lot of the information that's given to you. So for example, first you need to investigate the property developer who is involved in the deal. Are they a legitimate dealer? Do they have are they registered? Are they in good standing with the Association of Property Developers in Nigeria? The Estate Surveyor Association, are they also in good standing with them? Then you now need to investigate the deal itself, right? The deal they're bringing to you. If someone brings a deal to you and says, this deal is going to make you 50% of your money in 1 year, you need to check, does that make sense? This area where how much are you going to charge? How much is it going to cost you to build? How much is it going to cost you to sell? What's the average time it takes to sell a house in this area? And the kind of people you're trying to sell to, can they afford it? What are the measures you're trying to put in place to make sure that the house can be sold or can be rented out in time? These are the things you need to check. So don't take anything at face value. Once anybody, and try to understand the rationale behind it. If someone says to you, for example, that let's use Lagos as an example. If someone says to you that in Ibafo, that they're building a house at Ibafo and they're going to sell the house for 10 million naira, and the house is going to cost 4 million naira to build. It's a bit understandable because there's a trend in Lagos right now, and the thing about investments is you need to sort of be aware of your environment. There's a trend in Lagos now with people moving to the periphery of the city, right?
Okay.
The city center itself, the places we've been used to, Surulere, Yaba, Isolo, it's getting really choked up. So people are moving out. So I can see that. I can see someone selling a house for 10 million naira there, or a bit more. But if someone says to me that you're going to sell a house for 25 million naira in Ijibo, that's ridiculous, right? Because people are running out of Ijibo, not moving in. So it doesn't make any sense. So these are the common sense, really. You need to check if what the person is saying to you matches up with common sense and what you know about the city you're trying to live in. And if you're not someone that really understands that thing, then try to use a third party that you trust to do those verifications for you. Speak to your friends who are real estate advisors, ask them what they think, and they can give you better information.
At GoFund, did you do this third party verification?
Yes. So when deals come to us, we make sure that we do our own analysis by ourselves, but just so that we make sure that we're not biased by it, we let another third party do. We call them an investment committee, where they do extra due diligence on the property and the deal to make sure that it makes sense on their part. So when all that information is gathered, we then bring it together, and then we then analyze it. We also have a more of a techie way that we go about it, where we analyze data we actually use our computers to analyze data from previous years, and then that lets us know the possibility, and then that lets us know the possibility of what you're saying, whether it makes sense to be able to sell this property in the time frame that you're giving.
And you have collaborations in West Africa?
Yes, we do. So currently,
how does that work? So in terms of investment,
yeah,
how does that work?
So the real estate industry is very large. There's so many different players at different levels. You can't do without them. So we have partners who provide mortgages to people who want to buy the homes that we develop so that they can go fast. We have banks that provide us bridges in case the properties are not, in case we've not raised the funds needed to embark on the building at the time when we need it. We have banks that bridge us for that period of time. We also partner with listing platforms. Like we are partners with the number one listing platform in Ghana called Mikasa, where they are responsible for trying to help us offload some of those properties, and we're looking for those kinds of partnerships in Nigeria too. So we have different partnerships, along the chain just to help us get what we're doing.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Chukwuemeka Ndukwe, co-founder of CoFundi, and we've been looking broadly at investment climate in Nigeria, now settling in the real estate sector, as we've seen an increased interest in that particular area. A number of people are asking. And another big question people ask is, who was it I was listening to and we're like, invest. They say, just give me five. You have 5 million. Like, how many people have 5 million? So what's the least amount that people are looking at holding? Okay, I have this money, I want to just put into maybe throw it in one property or the other.
Yeah.
How much?
So first of all, I'll start by saying that we are actually optimized for people in the middle income class. So as long as you earn a salary in Nigeria, you should be able to invest with CoFundi. But the minimum investment for we're currently taking is 108,000 naira.
Really?
That's the minimum to invest, and if you invest in that property, you get 9%. You get 20%, in 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 20% of your money back. That's your money back plus 20% in 9 months. So we are actually everything we do is to make sure that we're not targeting people who are in the upper.
So you're making it so it's almost like widening the net for more people to do it, because sometimes you think when you look at some billboard, they're like, okay, it's not me they're talking to.
Exactly.
Okay, it's not me. So brilliant.
I mean, Nigeria is like there's how many million people in Nigeria? How many percent of those are in that middle income class? Right? I believe that if you build a business to service the middle income class in Nigeria, that's going to be a sustainable business, because maybe 1% is in the upper class, another maybe 50% is in below. Like that sweet spot in the middle. Yeah, exactly.
And if people wanted to, what are your social media handles?
So we are CoFundi on all social media, CoFundie, and our platform is cofundi.com, CoFundie.com.
Thank you so much. It's been Chukwuemeka Ndukwe. Thank you for really breaking it down. And
very insightful.
Yes, a number of people would agree with that, and also a relief to hear that you don't have to have millions to start to invest. But people, you heard that, start investing. We're no longer gone are the days when your money just sits down somewhere and is waiting for you. And you heard the salient point that he's mentioned, how to recognize the checks that you should make, the things that you should know, having a knowledge of the industry, very critical.
And also the financial literacy part, so parents out there listening, teach your kids financial literacy. Everyone should learn how to use Excel, then also basic business techniques, for holidays and other things related. Like I mentioned, that's our show this morning. Thank you so much, Lagos, for being a part of the program. But we'll be back here bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.
6 a.m. for a Feel Good Friday edition.
Yes. All right. After this, though, comes the Genie and then Khadija, then the Mook and the Maz, and then finally, to wrap up your day, it's Smooth Sessions with Mrs. Charlotte Thompson. Good morning, Lagos.
We know you're listening in.